it's really great being here today. Somebody said to me, you flew into Chicago. This morning you're leaving today. What's special about Moyo? All right, and I can't remember the year exactly we met, but I think I came to Chicago for some church conference or something like that. And I remember meeting him, and he had these books they had just written at that point in time. And honestly, with what I know now, I would say he wrote those books using ChatGPT, okay? Honestly speaking, because, I looked at him, the depth of intelligence that was demonstrated in the book, I was like, this is not normal. He had this devotional he used to write. I actually thought he was copying it from somewhere, okay? And that's how serious it was. So we kind of like struck up friendship. I had this event in Lagos that I did. It was 10 lessons, 10 stories, 10 lessons. And so he came to Nigeria then and he spoke and all. And I think that that's what it's been. But I think one of the parts to what he was doing at that time that I really loved was something that he called Eden Life. Mm-hmm. And Eden Life was a teaching platform and outreach to reach out to younger people. And it was doing amazing stuff back then. Yesterday evening, I was speaking to somebody in Dallas, and I went to visit him, and I said, oh, do you know Moyo used to do this thing? And he says, why did he stop? And I think that, he's not stopping, he's gaining momentum, all right? Yeah. That's good. So he's back to it and probably even bigger. But I think just like many Moyos, there are many things that represented our dreams when we were much younger, things we wanted to do. And sometimes you get so busy that you don't have time for yourself. I don't know if anybody resonates with that, all right? That you have things that you want to do. And when he told me about his birthday, I was quite excited. And he said something to me, and I'm going to start from there. So you hold him. He said he's going to be more intentional about mentoring other people, okay? And I think that that is very important because from the kind of role that I do executive coaching, I also pastor, and I've done that for a couple of years now. I realized that a lot of people need help. Let me reframe that. A lot of successful people need help. I'll put it that way. And I'm talking about people that are doing well in different spaces. I was in a meeting and the gentleman said that one of the challenges in business school is that they only teach you about one dimension of your life, which is the wealth, the business, that dimension. But there are other dimensions to your life. For example, there's a family dimension to your life. And we know many people that are very successful, but their family story isn't one to write home about. I'm happy that Moyo has a great family, and that is really very commendable. The other part to it is spoke about is their impact in the community in which they live in. And a lot of people don't resonate very highly where that is concerned. They're good financially. They probably got a windfall. But beyond their nuclear family and maybe a couple of other people, people don't really feel that impact, where their lives are concerned. And the last part, of course, is the spiritual dimension to it. And I think that one, in fact, this is my observation, that the more intellectual people become, the more they begin to question some beliefs they had earlier in their lives. And sometimes the effect is some people have, said to God, you know what, God, you are good, but I'll leave you alone. Let me face my life. And I see the numbers increasing in that regard. Now, I've said all of that to say something, So he's told you I'm a pastor, all right? That's like somebody made this for me, okay? But I like to have conversations that are very applicable. One of the, I think it was in Luke 12, a scripture, it says that a man's life does not consist in the abundance of things he possesses. And living in the world we live in today, if you don't have abundance, you're going to have a struggle. Am I right? Yeah. So the question that I've always asked myself is that if a man's life doesn't consist in the abundance of the things that he has, what then does a man's life consist of? So I'm going to ask real quick, anybody volunteer? If it is true, now Jesus is speaking, all right? So it's either telling a lie or it's telling the truth. And saying that a man's life, if you want to measure it, all right, abundance is important, no doubt about it. But it's saying that there are other dimensions to life. So let me ask real quick. What other dimensions to a man's life should there be? Anybody? Anybody? No prizes today, all right? Yes, sir.
Health.
What's that?
Health.
Health. I like that. Health. That's good. Any other person?
Relationships.
Relationships. All right. Any other person? Impact. I like that one. Awesome. Okay. One more. What's that? Family, all right? Relationships, family, health, and impact, all right? So, real quick, I want each person to just introspect and ask yourself, based on these three criteria that we've asked ourselves, how well am I doing, all right? How many of you have overloaded with calories this week? Anybody in the house? All right? Okay, I mean, again, there's something that's the same where we are back from. They say something must kill a man. Am I right? Okay, well, there's that. Then, in terms of family and relationships, increasingly, there are marriage challenges. Let's take marriage, for example. All right? How many single people do you have in the room? I know my friend is. All right? Any other person single? All right, you guys, all the best, because it's tough out there. Am I right? I don't know how you guys are going to do it, but I'm 20 years this year, and I'm so happy I got married when things were easy back then, okay? But a lot of marriages are going through a lot right now. And, it's okay to be successful, but one of the things that is also coming about is that a lot of people are growing older and growing alone. And so they don't have a family to go home to, or they don't have children that are connected to them, and there's that emptiness in their soul that is growing. The reason why I'm saying so is that I don't want our own stories to be that in the future. And so somehow we have to be a bit intentional about some of these things. The last part, I like it, because about 3 people echoed it, is about impact. And one of the things that I want to encourage, and that's what I like what this is about, life, spirituality, manhood, and wealth creation, is that it is so easy and to get into the race to the top where wealth creation, wealth accumulation is concerned. And personally, I don't think there's anything wrong in having a lot of wealth. I think there's everything right about that. However, I realize that from God's perspective, and then even from the human perspective, if somebody said to me today that I'm in the 30 BG, all right? 13 billion gang, all right? And I'm talking about dollars now, all right? That I don't really feel the effect of that when all that I see is what you do for yourself. And that's great at a certain level. But I see that at a certain level, that money becomes a vehicle for you to be able to do something beyond yourself. There's a lot of rich people that people don't like, true or false? There's a lot of rich people that people don't want to relate with, that only because of their net worth that people will actually want to engage with them. And one of the things I personally believe is that each person needs to have your impact project. In other words, people will not remember you for the cars you drove, for the houses you lived in. Those things are good. And guys, I'm 47 this year. So technically, even if I live to 100, I'm about half of my life. And so while I am focused on growing my wealth, growing achievement, and growing success, I must also have a plan for impact. And I'll give an example. So if you read, and I'm quoting scripture, 2 Corinthians 5 and 10. So I'm a HR professional also. And one of the things we talk about is that, we have to do periodic assessments to check how well you're doing. I think it's in Daniel 5:27. There's a story about a gentleman called Belshazzar who had taken some items from the Judah, they had seized from Judah, and was using it to drink and all that. And then a hand writes on the wall and says, many, many teke. That teke part says that you have been weighed in the balance and you are found wanting. And that, for me, from a HR perspective, means we conducted an appraisal on you and you failed. And he was alive when they conducted the assessment. My personal belief is that God does do appraisals from time to time. And this guy had gold. This guy had silver. This guy had things. He was the king of Babylon. And Babylon was the empire, the ruling empire of that time. I also want to call what I just did now, all right? Somebody pray for America, okay? That's another conversation for another day. So, but this guy was weighed, and when I read it and studied it, it said that what you possessed did not measure in heaven. And this is what I think. I think that wealth is a tool. I think a lot of wealth is an opportunity. The people who built America, the men who built America, today we talk about Rockefeller and how much money he had. But what we never forget is what Rockefeller Foundation is doing. And so one of the things that, I've told Moyo about is that God didn't give you a teaching gift just to bury it. It's great. You can run numbers. You can do your investments. You can keep, it's a senior person. And I always look forward to getting testimonies from him. But what part or what portion of your life are you allocating to impact another generation? What time or what direction? And when you talk about impact, it's quite diverse. I do a lot of speaking. Moyo does teaching. Moyo does teaching about finances. Do you know how many young men are wrecking their lives financially right now? And many times, if Moyo begins this thing, because we've had the conversation, and I'm just setting him up, he has agreed he's going to start a mentoring platform. Please hold Moyo to it. Is that okay? Yes. All right? He's agreed to start a mentoring platform, and the one thing that will get many men to listen to you is money. True or false? Look, if you call a man for a relationship conference, you'll be like, oh, my friend, you get my point. But when you say money is involved, we're there, am I right? And so I think that money is a gateway to every other area of life. That if you begin to speak about money, you can speak about family. That if you begin to speak about money, you speak about health, because there's a lot of rich, sick people, am I right? You can speak about money, you can speak about spirituality and all that. And I think that that is what God is actually expecting of every single one of us. As a pastor, one of the things I've always tried to look for is how can we make what we discuss about spiritually, how can we make it relevant? And I think we're living in a dying world. And sometimes our instincts is basically, let me fight for what I own. But I think that beyond us, we are here as the light of the world. We are here as the salt of the earth. And I'm not asking you to start doing a program like this, Momentum. It starts at work. There are people that you are responsible for. And let me say this to you, when they come, they look like a problem many times. There's a guy that I had, and he came, before he joined my company, somebody called me and said, I noticed these guys around you. This guy owes everybody. He was going to owe you money. And and truly, within 2 weeks, I felt the effect. But that guy is a multi-millionaire in dollars today. The guy worked for me in 2016. I was paying him 30,000 naira per month. And I think I did a good job because in 2019, one day he came and he bought me a car. And I thought about it, what if I was wicked to him? Even if God spoke, he would deny it. And where am I going to? I'm saying to you that your full life is not just in what you can do, it's what you will also reap from what you have done for others. And so, corporate America is so busy that, in fact, sometimes Saturday and Sunday you are quite busy. Monday all the way to Friday, you are quite busy. And so my challenge is, what is the one thing you are going to do that blesses other lives? I think the scriptures put it this way, I will bless you and you will be a blessing to the families of the earth. I think after 100 years, 120, I don't plan to live longer than that because I think it's going to get boring. All right? That's my personal plan. But no matter how long you live, even up to Methuselah, 900 and what? 30 or something like years, one day you're going to close your eyes on this side of eternity and open it before God. And what He's going to ask you about is not your Rolls Royce, not your Range Rover, not your net worth, but what you did with your life. I'm going to read a scripture as I end this right now. And that scripture gives a 5-point assessment appraisal that God actually uses to measure our lives. And I hope that, these things will help us to go back home and we're able to say to ourselves, what can we do in this regard? The 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 10. I'm reading the Amplified Version. He said, for we, all these men in the room, must all appear and be revealed as we are before the judgment seat of Christ. Why? So that each one may receive his pay. Now, when we think about judgment, we think about sin. But sin has been dealt with. That's the truth about it. So the judgment is not about sin. It's about the impact you made in your life. It says that each one may receive his pay according to what he has done in the body while alive, whether good or evil. And I like the Amplified because it gives us the 5 things that God checks. Number 1, considering what his purpose has been. That there's a purpose for your life. That in as much as We learned in biology about evolution, that we came from an amoeba, and then we became a tadpole, and then we became a monkey. I didn't come from a monkey, by the way, all right? But the idea is that there was intentionality about our lives. And that there's a reason for existence. That while you're working in Goldman Sachs, you're working in Wall Street and all that, that God has a man on ground to do some things at a particular period of time. That there's a Joseph that will notice one day that two directors in the organization are going through a situation, and he can interpret their dreams, not knowing that that interpretation was also his own exaltation. That you can actually truly care for people. We live in a world where people use people. And it's not because they want to, it's just a natural thing. Where you can actually be a blessing. It says, considering what his purpose has been, number one. Number two, what is motive, your motivation? So why do you want to be very wealthy? A lot of people want to be very wealthy so that they can show that they've arrived. True or false? Mm-hmm. A lot of people want to be very wealthy so that when they stand among boys, you know, we're okay. Am I right? That God will check your heart to know what your motivation has been. Number three, what you have achieved. That God expects you not to do small things. That God expects you to do great things. Moyo said, do not forget your dreams. Your greatest future is in what is in the invisible. What is possible that is not yet on ground. And so we have to pursue those things and not settle, because I also realize that, you know, settlement is at different levels. You can settle at $1 million. You can settle at $1 billion. Am I right? But you can keep going on. So what you have achieved. Number four, what you have been busy with. And guys, everybody is busy. The question is, what have you been busy with? I have an idea. Be busy with your life, improving things, being about God's purpose to your life. But this is the last part. It says, what he has given himself and his attention to accomplishing. Life is so short. Last year, I'm a Nigerian, and a very wealthy Nigerian died in California. He was a bank managing director, well accomplished. He had just launched, he didn't launch a house, he launched a palace somewhere in one of the highbrow areas in Lagos State. His house had an underground where from there, if anything happens, I mean, he would escape to the waterways where there was a boat waiting for him. He had servant quarters underground, beautiful edifice. But he probably lived there for less than 6 months. Now, we are not afraid of death. But listen to me, I said to people, and when he died, a lot of people, that's what typically happens. People go like, oh, think about their lives, reflect. But guys, guess what? 2 months after, everybody has forgotten about it. I call it the blur, where we forget that death reminds us about the essence of life. That we're meant to live out our lives. That while it's important that we get wealth, I think that the Bible wants and says, do not, what's that scripture in Deuteronomy 8? When you are eating and you are full, do not forget. Because it's easy to forget that there's a purpose for your existence. Moyo is 40. I'm sure sometimes he will pinch himself and say, me, 40 years old.
I did that this morning.
He did that this morning. I'm telling you, guys will soon be 50. Guys will soon be 60. Guys will soon be 70. So you cannot stop. You can stop the clock, but you can't stop time. So time will keep ticking. The question is, what are you using your time to do? So all I've said today, in summary, is while you are pursuing the great dreams, while you have great aspirations, I want you to focus a portion of your life on impact. Today with technology. So Moyo has agreed, I'm really doing this now, that twice a year, it would host a few weeks. I do something right now where every Sunday in the evening, about 7 o'clock to 8:30, I have a set of people that I just mentor. And they're all based in Canada and based in America. And that's I do, even if I'm in Nigeria, I do that. And I see them improving and I see them developing. 2 things that are happening. Number one, I'm being a blessing. Number two, I'm getting better at knowing how to manage people and how to handle people. At the end of the day, a man's life consists not just about what he possesses, but what he uses those things he possesses to do. Let me end this way with these few points of mine. I hope, now, let me say this to you, all right? 3 things. Number one, this conversation is about direction for your life. The second thing you need is the right association. I think a lot of people, they say if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I think it's so easy to be alone in America.
Yeah.
It's so easy. But please have the right association. particularly the ones that influence you towards what you want to achieve. Because if you are not intentional about your decision, you will end up where you don't plan to go to. That's the truth about it, all right? I've gotten people, I'm a gentleman. Somebody invited me to a gentleman's club. I said, I'm not that gentle, all right? Please, leave me alone, all right? I'm not that gentle, okay? All right, real guy, he was like, let's just, I said, I'm gentle, leave me alone, all right? And the last part, I think, is, so I've spoken about direction, I've spoken about station, the last is momentum, all right? Momentum is required because many of us know that we're not where we are meant to be. We know that we can actually move faster, all right? And so whatever it takes, because Moyo is going to be teaching us about momentum and other things, I want us to take those life lessons and use them in our lives. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Pastor Jimmy. Thank you. So, again, want to appreciate everyone for showing up here. I can't say thank you enough for your presence and just for you celebrating with me this way. This is exactly how I envisioned. I saw, by the way, I had no plans. My friend, Tunde, where's he at? Where's Tunde? Oh, there he is. So Tunde turned 40 last year, and he just kind of snuck, and didn't do anything. I was going to do it his way, myself, and just be like, you know what? Wife and I, we go somewhere nice and fancy, and we enjoy ourselves. And then I had a conversation with PJ here. Um, the same week, I had a conversation with, where is Toyosi, my brother? I had a conversation with him. And then I had like a conversation with another gentleman as well in Nigeria, and they just kind of lit a fire underneath me, and that's how this came about. So this came all together in less than 4 weeks, right? Because I had zero intention about doing anything. And when I had the thoughts to do this, that's when I actually started getting excited about my 40th birthday. So it speaks to how meaningful this is to me, one, and two, how meaningful the fact that you all are here with me is. How many people are enjoying how everything has been unfolding so far? Yes, exactly, exactly. Thank you. Okay, so just to give you a sense of what's coming up next, I'm going to share my keynote, and then after that, I'd like us to do a few minutes of Q&A, right? Because there's been a lot of information being dished out. I'm assuming that people have like thoughts and questions in their heads. Would certainly like to, talk about these things here, just so that it's an exchange of ideas.